Just. Yep, ready to go. Good to go.
Thank you, Pip. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's council meeting. We've had a beautiful sunny day in the Golden Plains Shire, so we just welcome you to tonight's meeting. My name is Helena Kirby and I'm Mayor of the Golden Plains Shire Council. Tonight, this council meeting is taking place virtually and being presented in a different way via live stream. The public are encouraged to watch virtual meetings through live streaming, which is available on Council's website and YouTube page. As Chair of the meeting, I give my consent for this open council meeting to be recorded and published online in accordance with Section 14 of Council's Governance Rules of 2020. The stream will stop at the conclusion of the meeting. Should technical issues prevent the continuation of the stream, every effort will be made to bring the stream back online as soon as possible. A recording will be made available on Council's website following the meeting. I will now run through the procedures to ensure the meeting runs as smoothly as possible. In accordance with requirement 1 of the Minister's Good Practice Guideline, I will address each councillor individually to confirm the following. They can hear the proceedings, they can see other councillors in attendance, they can be seen by other councillors, and they can be heard when speaking. If a councillor is unable to confirm that they can hear and see the proceedings, or if they cannot be seen or heard, they will be recorded as absent in the minutes and be ineligible to vote on agenda items. I will now confirm that all councillors can be seen and heard. Deputy Mayor Councillor Ian Getsom, can you please confirm that I can be seen and heard?
Yes, you can, Madam Mayor, be seen and heard.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Councillor Ian Getsom, can you please now confirm that you can hear and see other councillors?
I can hear and see other councillors, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Brett Cunningham, can you please confirm that you can hear and see other councillors?
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Yes, I can see all fellow councillors and also hear them.
Thank you. Councillor Gavin Gamble, can you please confirm that you can hear and see other councillors?
Yes, Mayor, I can see and hear other councillors.
Thank you. Councillor Les Rowe, can you please confirm that you can hear and see other councillors?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I can see and hear fellow councillors.
Thank you. Councillor Owen Sharkey, can you please confirm that you can hear and see other councillors?
Sorry, I can. Sorry, I was just having issues there. I can see. There's a few councillors disappeared now. I can see everyone. Yeah, I can see and hear everyone. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Clayton Whitfield, can you please confirm that you can hear and see other councillors? You're just on mute.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I can see and hear all other councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. If any councillor drops out during the meeting, they will be recorded as having left the meeting at that time and the meeting will continue as normal. If a councillor rejoins the meeting, I will, in accordance with requirement 1 of the Minister's Good Practice Guideline, again ask the councillor to confirm that they can hear the proceedings, see others in attendance and can be heard. Upon this confirmation, it will be recorded in the minutes that the councillor rejoined the meeting. Councillors, if you would like to move or second a motion, please raise your hand in a manner that can be clearly seen on your computer's camera. Councillors, when voting on a matter, please also raise your hand either for or against the motion in a manner that can be clearly seen on your computer's camera. Please leave your hand raised until I've declared the motion as being carried or lost. If you wish to speak on an item during debate, please also raise your hand in a manner that can be clearly seen on your computer's camera and leave your hand raised until I've asked you to speak. This will allow me as the Mayor to manage the debate accordingly. When you are not speaking, please ensure you are on mute. Thank you. I will now recite the opening declaration on behalf of all councillors. We, the councillors of the Golden Plains Shire, declare that we will undertake on every occasion to carry out our duties in the best interests of the community, and that our conduct shall maintain the standards of the Code of Good Governance, so that we may faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in this council by the people of the Golden Plains Shire. Golden Plains Shire spans the traditional lands of the Wadawurrung and Eastern Maar people. We acknowledge them as the traditional owners and custodians. Council pays its respects to the Wadawurrung elders past, present and emerging. Council also respects Eastern Maar elders past, present and emerging. Council extends that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of the Golden Plains Shire. Are there any apologies for this meeting or requests for leave of absence, councillors? No one's going away for the long weekend. All right, thank you. Confirmation of the minutes. Councillors, we have a resolution before us to confirm the minutes of the meeting of council held on the 28th of September 2021 and the meeting of council held on the 12th of October 2021 as circulated. Can I have a mover? Councillor Cunningham. Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Getson. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Declaration of conflicts of interest. Are there any declarations of conflicts of interest for tonight's meeting? I have one to declare. Item 7.3. It is a material conflict of interest for the mobile traders policy. I have a conflict as this policy could have a financial loss to my business, the Rockwood Takeaway. Thank you, councillors. Public question time. No public questions have been submitted for tonight's meeting. We'll now proceed to the agenda. We will now move to consider the formal agenda. So item 7 is business reports for decision. Item 7.1, the delegates report from the 28th of September 2021 to the 25th of October 2021. Mr. CEO, would you like to present the report?
For you, Madam Mayor, there's nothing to add. It's the report of the council delegates and they may wish to speak to their items.
All right, thank you. So councillors, is there any councillors who would like to speak to their report? Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to apologise. I was unable, due to work commitments, to attend the opening of the digital hub at Smilesdale. In addition to the meetings stated, during the period of time, I also attended the Corporate Services Portfolio meeting, Tourism Board AGM, and just with that, at that AGM, it was discussed and tabled the document Road to Recovery for Tourism Hospitality in the areas covered by G21. There was a wide range of new programs that will be implemented when allowed, coming out of COVID. The board is in a very healthy, strong financial place, and it places them in a good spot to kickstart tourism in the region and re-engage with applicable markets, with Melbourne in particular. Also, during the month, attended the strategic planning workshop. I was invited and chaired the Shelford Rec Reserve AGM, attended the Youth Hub reference group, and also attended the Inverleigh RSL Open Day, which was very well attended, a very successful event. And I attended that with Councillor Kirby, Whitfield and Jepson and Gamble. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Getson.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I was able to attend the opening of the digital hub at Smilesdale, and we had George Fong there, gave us a very well and educated and learning information session, which was really great. I think Councillor Whitfield will probably add a little bit more to that, so I won't steal his thunder. Also did the Timber Towns Victoria General Meeting. Timber Towns are invited now to go on the State Forest Revision Board. Also, we have a member from the CFMEU on board as well. And also the City of Ballarat have joined the Timber Towns Victoria. And that's all I have at this stage. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Getson. Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, along with yourself, Councillor Cunningham, Getson and Gamble, attended the Inverleigh RSL Open Day, at which Mel Johns was recognised for 33 years as president. There was a fantastic display of uniforms and equipment provided by Mark Reed. The Lions Club put on a sausage sizzle and some money was raised with a raffle. This branch does a great job of supporting our returned servicemen and women and their families. Also, yourself, Madam Mayor, Councillor Getson and myself attended the Digital Hub at Smearsdale. I was able to see the drop-in sessions firsthand, and community members that took part really embraced it. Thumbs up to Derek, Peter and Andrew from the Shire for developing and facilitating those information sessions. The guest speaker, George Fong, did give a great insight into the challenges and the progress of getting quality internet into the rural areas. I also met with the Bannockburn Cemetery Trust group earlier in the month and saw the terrific work that Melissa, Terry, Brian and Bruce are doing. They had a working bee on the go and were making improvements to the gazebo at the time. They have been successful with some grants in the past and have made the most of them with the installation of new front fence and curbing as well as landscaping. The place looks absolutely fantastic. And they hold regular working bees there on Tuesday mornings if anyone would like to pop down and lend a hand. That's it from me. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Gamble.
Thank you, Mayor, fellow councillors. My delegates report consists of the G21 environment pillar to start with. Julia Baggio is presenting a new priority projects booklet, and it's a very impressive document, and I recommend everybody who's interested in the bigger picture issues with our region and our Shire should have a look at that. It's available online now, the G21 website. Also at this environment pillar, there was a presentation on the RON project, which more information has come out about. And we also had a presentation in the EPA Act from the implications of that, the new act from 2017. The DWELP people had a sustainable water strategy that's new and discussing that. And also Vicky from Geelong Sustainability was proposing a regional emissions target, which was provoked a fair bit of discussion and thinking about how that relates also to not just as a Shire, but with the region, with the proposed greenhouse, well, it is happening, the Greenhouse Alliance based down at Warrnambool that we're involved in too. I also attended the Environment Volunteers and Agencies meeting. That was a more of a steering meeting, and also the G21 transport pillar. With this pillar meeting, we met the new head of Barwon Regional Roads, and it's good to know he's a road cyclist, but he was very good to meet. He spoke a lot about the issues and answered a lot of questions and concerns from different shires and different, ranging from freight issues to trails and everything in between. We also had Jessica Harris talking about integrated transport plan that's coming through, mainly through the Geelong, well, through G21, and that's been a while coming, and it's still coming, but it's good to know that it's progressing. We also had Giulio Baggio also came to that transport pillar and gave us an overall presentation as well, concentrating on the transport aspects. On as well as attending the Inverleigh RSL Open Day, I also attended most, but not all, of the Sustainable House Day events, which featured a house from Teesdale, 8.2 stars with a fairly reasonable cost to build. And I had the opportunity to welcome the new residents to Teesdale and Golden Plains. They've only moved in a few months ago. There was some really good information in that, and anybody who wants to look at that in more depth can Google Geelong sustainability, and then you can see those 4 webinars on specific issues, plus 4 houses featured with in-depth interviews with the builders, the material suppliers, and the residents themselves. We also, I attended the Maud Landcare meeting last week, which is always nice, but in attendance there and presenting was Bronwyn Merritt, who's the new Landcare facilitator for Geelong Landcare. So it was good to meet her and learn about her background and see what her priorities and find out more about what's happening around the region with Landcare. And also last week, we, along with Clayton, we attended the Grampian Central Waste Resource Recovery Group, which is also really interesting. It started off with a battery stewardship program presentation, looking at all the issues to do with all the loose batteries that are out there, and some of the issues you don't think about, but those lithium ion batteries, they only have to be punctured and they can explode into a fire. So you can just imagine the implications going into a resource recovery or landfill situation with potentially a lot more fires than what there should be. So there's going to be a lot more an extensive program coming soon well, they call it a battery stewardship program. Also a presentation from a group from Ballarat called Gaia, or the Gecko Group, which had a really interesting mixture of rapid composters and anaerobic digesters that can generate power, but they do it on a scale that's actually suitable for town sizes of, quote, 1,500 or greater for the composters, and anaerobic digesters for populations of around 5,000. And that was a really impressive presentation, and it might be worth considering with some of our more further out towns, perhaps in the north, but we'll have to speak to the directors about that. Also, Dwelp had a presentation on the circular economy, and Selena from Sustainability Victoria also did a presentation on asbestos and the disposal management plan that's involved there. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gamble. Just one question. I was just wondering if the house that you visited in Teesdale, was that a new house or a refit?
No, that one was a brand new, but they did have a refit from a 1960s house in Belmont too.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, both of them are quite economical builds, which is good too.
Oh, thank you. Just interesting to find out. Councillor Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I wanted to, again, I did emphasise it last month just to highlight fantastic work that's been done down at the Old Shire Hall there. I think yesterday's figures were in with 79.7% of the community who have now received the first jab and received the first jab and over the second jab at 79.7%, and 95% of our community have received the first jab. So fantastic. I had my children down there last week, and fantastic to see the community getting involved with that. I did also want to highlight that I had wrote a letter to both Richard Reardon, Michaela Settle, and Sean Lean from Local Government Minister, appreciating Richard Reardon's also the opposition to Local Government Minister, highlighting the rating issue and how that is. I am continuing to be reminded by residents of the rating issue and the problems that it is having with certain residents. Richard Reardon was the only one who has got back to me and said that he was going to be addressing it. So hopefully that's something that becomes a little bit of an issue, as we are now 399 days away from a state election. So hopefully something comes of that. Also, I did want to note my disappointment that councillor only time has been removed from future agendas for this group. So not too sure on the decision for that, but I just wanted to note my disappointment with that. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. It was discussed with the councillor group, the reason why. I won't bring it up now, but if you'd like further confirmation about that, I'll be happy to speak to you after this meeting. Thanks. Councillor Rowe.
Thanks very much, Madam Mayor. Look, I attended the Timber Towns virtual meeting alongside Councillor Getson. Also on Monday the 11th of October, I was asked to attend a public meeting at the Maud Recreation Reserve to chair the replacement of the retiring committee group by the chairman, Murray Satchell. A new committee of management was replaced with all positions filled. So I'd just like to say good luck to this group for the next 3 years. On another note, on Thursday, the 14th of October, I was invited by Mark Beasley. Mark's the manager of Geelong Heritage Centre Collection and Heritage Centre Services at the Geelong Regional Library Corporation, to join a group for a tour of the Geelong Library and the Heritage Centre. This is the first time I've been to the library since the upgrade. I think it was $40–50 million upgrade some years back. I found the Heritage Centre a very interesting place with a lot of history of Geelong from when it was founded in 1837 to today. Furthermore, I found the vault at the Heritage Centre very interesting, with all the old maps, photographs, newspapers, books, and etc., in a controlled environment to protect this collection for future generations. So that's me done. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Rowe. I had quite a few things on for the month, councillors. First, I'd just like to mention that I had the G21 delegation to Canberra last week. So that took place over Zoom over 2 days. We were very lucky because probably by just going on Zoom, it has saved the ratepayers some money by not having air flights and accommodation while I would have been staying up in Canberra. It's not the same when you're not attending in person, but everyone found the time very, very valuable, because by the time you normally have to queue up, go through security and the like, it did save a lot of time and effort. Some of the ones that we spoke to during the meetings were Barnaby Joyce, Dan T and Catherine King, just to name a few. We actually, there was a couple of items from the G21 priority booklet that Councillor Gamble mentioned earlier. And from there, a couple of the items that I brought up especially was the Moorabool Trail, that they're looking for funding for the costings for that. And also the rail link from Bannockburn to Geelong. We're actually, as a group, we're trying to have a trans-urban rail link. So this will be to quite a few towns around the city of Geelong, going out to Winchelsea, Bannockburn, even down to Colac with extra rail services. So I just thought I'd mention that we're really trying to push ahead for rail in and out of Bannockburn to Geelong. Another area was skilling the Barwon region regarding training opportunities for people, and that's a really good opportunity that's coming out of the university. The digital divide was another one, due to the lack of phone and internet coverage in our shire, that we had a really good push on that as well around for the whole region. I'd also like to say that by attending the opening at the Digital Well, it was an excellent night, as has been said already. But I just wanted to remind the residents in all that area, the western areas, the centre of the Shire, and also up north, to go along, have a look at the Digital Well in Smythesdale, and just have a look at the computers. And there's a lot of information that can be gained, and there is people there that can help you to navigate through some of those areas. I also attended the Berrybank wind farm, putting solar panel, a photo opportunity over at Meredith, where we've just put solar panels on 7 community buildings around the Shire. And also at the Berrybank wind farm meeting, we had a great response from Fed Uni. They come out and Bill Mundy was speaking to us about how they're starting up an apprenticeship scheme and other areas within wind farms and solar for people and young ones, older ones who can learn about becoming a technician in the wind farm business or solar. So there's some great opportunities out there for our residents. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you. So, councillors, we have a recommendation before us that council receive and note the delegates' report from the 28th of September 2021 to the 25th of October 2021. Do I have a motion? Do I have a mover? Councillor Rowe. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Do you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Rowe?
No, thanks, Madam Mayor. I think enough has
Thank
been
you.
commented.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing else to add there. Thank you.
Are there any councillors who would like to add anything else? No. If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.2, the adoption of the Golden Plains Shire Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Action Plan 2021 to 2025. Councillors, I will take this report as presented. Do I have a mover? Councillor Whitfield. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Getson. Sorry, I probably should have read out the recommendation first. Sorry about that. That council notes that the draft Golden Plains Shire Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Action Plan 2021 to 2025 has been publicly exhibited with no submissions received. And item 2, adopts the Golden Plains Shire Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Action Plan 2021 to 2025, Attachment 1, in accordance with the Public Health and Wellbeing Act 2008. You're still happy to move that, Councillor Whitfield? Yeah, thank you. And seconded, Councillor Getson, thank you. Mover, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, look, this action plan aligns with and will assist in the effective implementation of the Golden Plains Shire Council Plan for 21-25. The 5 key areas being improving mental wellbeing, increasing active living, preventing family violence and advancing gender equality. equity, increasing healthy eating, and tackling climate change and its impact on health. I noticed there was 103 page views and 29 downloads of the document, with no submissions received, which would indicate there is community support for this plan, which is great to see, as there has been a lot of work put into this document. Just some of the benefits of this plan for the community include building the capacity of residents and groups to get involved and contribute to communities, programs to promote physical activity and social connection, providing education to schools, sporting clubs and workplaces on healthy eating, delivering activities and programs that engage youth, and education programs around waste management and recycling. The partnerships throughout this plan are vital to the delivery, and the list of them is extensive. We've got Barwon Health, Hesse Rural Health, Bannockburn Surgery, Central Highlands Primary Care, Women's Health Grampians, Ballarat Community Health, and Integrated Living, just to name a few. But the biggest partner, of course, are the residents of Golden Plains, and I would encourage all Golden Plains residents to contact the Shire if you need support or to see how you or your group can get involved. Very pleased to support the adoption of this plan, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Getson, would you like to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you for that. I'd like to congratulate the staff for putting this report together. And I, like Councillor Whitfield, I'm very happy to support this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillors who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following on from Councillor Whitfield's comments, the plan identifies 5 priority areas which, to be delivered, will require working with many service organisations and community groups. Coming out of the time of COVID, and there's a growing population throughout the Shire, Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Action Plan is a very important document. And as with the other councillors, I support the Council's Office's recommendation to adopt this action plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Any councillor would like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? Councillor Rowe, thank you.
Look, listen, I'd just like to add a little bit on. As Councillor Whitfield mentioned there's no submissions received, therefore there's no changes to be made in this. This plan, this Public and Health Wellbeing Plan, it replaces the 2017-21 plan, and we've always got to get one of these up and running within 12 months of a council election. It will be submitted, I think, end of October, to go to the Victorian Department of Health. So, and the delivery of the plan, it relies on a lot of partnerships, I'd like to say, with many groups. So, yeah, that's all. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Councillor Gamble.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, likewise, I am impressed with the plan, and it is central to our council plan document as well. A sentence that particularly struck me was, at the heart of the action plan is empowerment of the community through increasing community members' ownership and control of their own health, well-being and personal development. I think that's very good. So it's focusing basically on preventative measures and responsibility as well. So other councillors have read the 5 measures that are seen as the focus. But the action plan also, there's an action plan with it, and council's taken the lead role in developing the actual plan. But as Councillor Cunningham noted, the plan recognises success and effectiveness. Effectiveness and implementation relies on partnerships with many organisations and community groups. This ensures the collective impact approach is taken to improving the health and well-being of the community. So I also have a confidence it's a good plan, and as Councillor Rowe noted, there were no submissions or indication of any issues, oversights or shortcomings with the plan. So there's also, I have confidence with the plan because the amount of involvement with local health, community and council services contributing to the development of it. Finally, I'd like to note that this is an example of modern council's commitment to looking after the health and well-being of the community, particularly the more vulnerable, but we can all be vulnerable at times, working and leading with other agencies as well. An example also that local governments, modern local governments are more than just rotes, rates and rubbish. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor Whitfield if he'd like to close.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, I think it's quite evident of solid support from the councillor group and on a terrific plan that will enable us to succeed with our 4-year council plan as well. Yeah, really good to see. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 7.3, I will leave this meeting. I have a conflict of interest on 7.3, as I stated earlier. I have a material conflict of interest as this policy could have a financial loss on my business. So I'll give it to Deputy Mayor Councillor Ian Getson to continue. Thanks, councillors.
All clear, Pip?
Yep, all good to go.
Thank you. Item 7.3, adoption of mobile traders policy. Do we have Matthew Sims on board?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Chair, this report will be presented. The report is being presented. There's no officer presentation tonight, but we're here if you have any questions.
Okay, so the recommendation is 1, that council notes that the mobile traders policy has been publicly exhibited with 42 submissions received. 2, adopts a mobile traders policy as attached. Would somebody like to move or speak on that? Councillor Whitfield.
And a seconder.
A seconder, please. Councillor Gamble. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak?
Yes, thanks, Deputy Mayor. There were a significant number of responses to the public exhibition for this policy, and it was pleasing for me to see that many of them had an influence in the policy. The policy reflects the submissions where mobile traders will be asked to operate from specific locations around the Shire, satisfying the need to protect bricks and mortar businesses while enabling a diversity of food and product choices for residents. The respondents showed a high level of empathy for bricks and mortar businesses, with 83% not wanting to increase competition for them. This policy aims and will protect the amenity and safety of the community, and it recognises that mobile traders can add to the economy. Yes, it's a good policy that provides satisfactory outcome for existing businesses, mobile traders and the community. Thanks, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Gamble.
Thank you. Yeah, also I believe it's a good policy, and recognising there's a balance of interest to consider. I think it was the process overseen by Matthew Sims I consider it to be very fair and thorough. And also, I'd like to add that it is an important issue. We should always be mindful of the impact these decisions and policy can have on people's lives too. It's, especially if you've got a small business and people like that have invested a lot into their business. Even if it's not struggling, it can be take a lot of time and blood, sweat and tears goes into it. Usually the whole family's involved. But there are and will be rogue operators that will not be playing by the rules set out here. And whilst they have food registration, if they're on private land, then that's something that's difficult to counter. And people in the community need to be aware of the impact that these vans can have if they're affecting local trade. So I suggest you don't support those ones that are right next to that may be impacting a local business. People might think it's only a bit of custom that, you know, it's 1 out of 3 sales, so the business is doing okay sort of thing. That's the bricks and mortar business. But in small business, 4 out of $5 might pay just for the fixed costs, and it's the last 5th sale that is the earner. If you don't support your local family bricks and mortar businesses, they won't be there. There's no guarantees they'll be there in the future, and there's no guarantees the van or the mobile trader will be there either. But I support this policy. I think it's a good balance and commend it to the other councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Anybody else like to speak for? Anybody like to speak against? Councillor Whitfield, you like to sum up?
Sorry, Councillor. Councillor Cunningham had my hand up.
Sorry, I didn't see you there, Councillor Cunningham.
That's okay. There are issues with on the Zoom meeting. Thanks, Deputy Mayor. As stated, this proposed policy provides the framework that will enable council officers to provide a consistent approach regarding the issuing of mobile trading permits. As Councillor Whitfield mentioned, it was pleasing to see 42 Shire residents take the opportunity to take part in the public notice, public policy exhibition. I believe the mobile traders policy as presented is a fair and balanced document, and I also support the council's officer's recommendation. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Sorry about not seeing you there. Anybody else wish to speak on the mobile traders policy? Would you like to sum up, Councillor Whitfield?
Councillor Sharkey has his hand up.
Sorry, I can't see him. Councillor Sharkey?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just wanting to highlight some of the issues. Whilst this is a very nice policy, when you read through it, we've had 42 submissions on it, which shows the level of interest in it and the need for this policy. But it's quite an interesting journey to have gone on this one. It's one that you would like as a council to have a lot more ownership on this and create a better, fair playing field for mobile traders versus bricks and mortar businesses. But it's not as simple as that. This policy is only a policy that affects those setting up on council land. So if I want to have my mobile shop set up on private land, I can do that. I can set up a mobile fish and chip shop right next to a bricks and mortar fish and chip shop if I'm on private land. So it is whilst it's good in intent and it is there, and hopefully it helps the officers regulating it. There is issues with it there, and it's not going to be the absolute perfect policy for us. There is issues out there with bricks and mortars versus mobile traders. There's also the issue out there with home businesses set up at home that are avoiding we are charging mobile traders here, but that there is businesses set up working from home that avoid mobile trader policy and avoid paying extra on commercial rates. So it's very, very challenging. I'd love to come up with a system that creates a better and more level playing field, but it's very, very difficult, almost impossible. But hopefully this helps going forward. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to sum up?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. It's worth noting for those interested, Appendix A of the policy shows the locations in a map format around the various townships for where mobile traders can set up on council property. So if they want to know where they can go, or you want to know where you can find them, Appendix A is a good place to start. All right. Thanks, Mr. Chair. That'll do me.
Thanks, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Gamble?
Nothing further.
Thanks, Councillor Gamble. All right, we'll take a vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Would someone like to call Mayor Kirby back in, please?
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you, councillors. Item 7.4, the G21 and AFL Barwon towards 2030 strategy. Councillors, I will take this report as presented, and the recommendation is that council endorse the G21 and AFL Barwon towards 2030 strategy, attachment 1. Do I have a mover? Councillor Gamble.
Can I move an alternative motion, please?
You may, Councillor Gamble.
My alternative motion is council note that the G21 and AFL Barwon towards 2030 strategy has been completed. So it's basically option 2.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham? Councillor Gamble, would you like to speak? Thank you.
Thank you. Basically why I'm moving this amendment, alternative recommendation, is a recognition that this strategy is a best practice aspirational strategy, and I don't believe we can fully endorse and thereby commit to this strategy because it has quite extensive requirements, such as AFL training, standard lighting at every football ground, for example. And I believe that that's out of scope with our fiscal ability and has opportunity costs in terms of funding other things throughout this longer term strategy. I think we have we need to have the flexibility to provide the great facilities we do, but to concentrate on it in a more strategic manner that suits our shire. So there's operating costs involved, of course, and they're ongoing, and who's going to pay for them will always be an issue. For example, to replace just one of those high-powered light bulbs can cost the best part of $5,000. And I don't think it's AFL Barwon that's going to be paying for those, or the clubs themselves. Many of them are smaller clubs and they can't afford those sort of fees. So it'll come back to the ratepayers. And while that's to be supported in many ways, if we endorse this strategy and have too many facilities and we go full on into it, I think it'll have implications down the track. I think I also note that the agenda for the Geelong Council tonight, with their officer report presenting to just note the strategy, not actually endorse it as is proposed here. So on that basis, I think us just to noting the report is quite a sound strategy.
So, Councillor Gamble, do you have some wording for that? Because attachment to under the recommendation, it says public. Sorry, I'll have to go down further. I'm sorry.
My wording is Council note that the G21 and AFL Barwon towards 2030 strategy has been completed.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak to the amendment? If there's no councillors who'd like to speak, I will then put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against?
Point of clarity, just for myself, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I've got a little lost. Councillor Gamble has put up an alternative, seconded by Councillor Cunningham. Is that correct?
Yes.
And no one else is speaking on it. Okay.
Yep.
Sorry. Thank you.
If no one else wants to speak, we'll put it to the vote.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, point of just probably repeating Councillor Whitfield's comments there. So I'm a little bit lost in the process there. We had a mover. Did the seconder speak
Nothing else to add. Nothing else to add, Councillor Starkey.
Yep.
Thank you. I did miss that.
No, that's fine. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Cunningham. So if no one would like to speak to the alternative recommendation, I'll then put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Councillor Getson, thank you. I couldn't see a hand for or against. Thank you. So I'm sorry, but it has been lost, Councillor Gamble. So we'll now revert back to the original recommendation. Okay, so do we have a mover for the original recommendation? Councillor Sharkey. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Rowe. Councillor Sharkey, would you like to speak?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I just a little bit thrown by that last one. It is hard as a councillor to get your head around decisions that aren't given much consideration beforehand. But I was just trying to personally differentiate the wording between noting and endorsing. Whilst we are endorsing this, it is and has always been my understanding that documents such as this are largely aspirational. They are what they are laying the foundations for the road in which we want to go on and the direction we want to take our community on. So a lot of these documents, and I do agree with some of Councillor Gamble's comments earlier regarding the cost of things, but I think those, for me, those discussions are for another day. I think we have another item coming up tonight on Rockwood, and that's the sort of moments for those conversations, because I think we as a council should aspire and shoot for the moon for our residents. So whilst when we get to that point in time that we need those lights or that upgrade, we've had many conversations this year on Bannockburn lawn bowls, Lethbridge lights, Bannockburn projects, Inverleigh, female change rooms, all these projects that come up. Those difficult conversations do come at some stage, and whilst we have this aspirational document here and we are aligning ourselves with all the other G21 members, it is my opinion that doesn't lock us in for those things. If something comes up, we may want and aspire for certain things, but if we can't afford them at that point in time, then that's a conversation for that day and for that time and that council to either put that into place or not. And there is moments where you may like to go against things, but elections happen, funding opportunities do arise and do change the landscape. So I do appreciate the comments from Councillor Gamble. There is merit and I largely agree with them, but it's I think we should endorse this and take the officer's recommendation, and look forward to all the hard work that's been done here by all the G21 members. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Rowe, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah. Thanks very much, Madam Mayor. Yeah, look, listen, Councillor Sharkey said a fair bit there. I'll just add a few things here with my thoughts. Look, this gives direction going forward in relation to football and netball in the Golden Plains Shire Council, with considerations and decisions. We need regional strategies to prioritise and advocate for projects, and also increase participation in sport and physical activity. So that's all I'd like to add. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillor who'd like to speak? Sorry, Councillor Gamble.
I won't speak too long because I've already said what I think, but I think there are other modes of sport that can be encouraged, as well as just the big scale team sports, and
just on that point of order, Councillor Gamble, we're actually referring to the G21 and AFL Bowen strategy. So we're not actually talking about other sports at this time.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll just state it again that I don't think we need to fully endorse this recommendation, but noting it is sufficient.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there anyone who'd like to speak for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, while we've been discussing this, I've been madly uploading and trying to look through that document again, because in my memory banks, I believe Golden Plains has let G21 know that our commitment is aspirational, and I'm pretty sure, look, I've read it in that document from our commitment side of things somewhere. I just in this short time frame couldn't find the wording or the page number, but I'm pretty confident it's actually in there, which would allay any fears that Councillor Gamble should have, I believe. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? Councillor Cunningham, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just following on from Councillor Sharkey's comments, yeah, I think it's an extremely important role that Golden Plains Shire will have to support and continue the growth of AFL netball in our Shire. This document is extremely well written, researched and presented. And once again, coming out of COVID, community sports and clubs are going to play a major part in allowing participation and social interaction, and allowing people to once again access health and wellbeing activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? If not, I will ask Councillor Sharkey to close the debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I don't have anything further to add to that, but good discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. So just summing up on that, it was a very good strategy that was that's just been adopted, and just a couple of items in there. We have three football ovals with the scoring. I just thought I'd pass this a little bit of information on. So the Don Wallace Reserve in Teesdale has a score of 14 out of 46. We have Inverleigh, which has a score of 18 out of 46. And we have Rockwood, which has a score of 18 out of 46. These are all in the document. And I just thought I'd let you know. I know that Inverleigh is having some work done to it at the moment, and hopefully that rating will be very close to 46. And Vic Park in Bannockburn has a score of 38 out of 46. Some of these all refer to the change rooms within the facility, and whether or not they have gender neutral change rooms as well. Umpires' rooms are also taken into account. So I just thought that scoring within this document was very important to note. Thank you. Item 7.5, the Growing Suburbs Fund for the Rockwood Community Hub and Pavilion upgrade. I'll ask our Director, Mr. Sigona, to introduce the report. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, this report seeks endorsement of an application that was recently submitted to the Growing Suburbs Fund. The application was for the Rockwood Community Hub and Pavilion upgrade. It essentially involves the development of a new community hub and new change rooms, including female-friendly facilities and associated external works and so forth. The application has been submitted already, given that the due date was the 13th of October, but the funding providers have allowed us some extra time to formalise that by way of council resolution. The total project cost is some $4.8 million. The council's contribution to that is $442,000, with $18,000 from the Rockwood Committee of Recreation Reserve Committee of Management. And the total request, therefore, from the Growing Suburbs Fund would be in the order of $4.4 million. There is a possibility that the Growing Suburbs Fund, upon consideration of our application, may come back to us and seek to negotiate a lesser amount in terms of a funding offer, in which case we would seek to rescope the project in consultation with the community and bring an alternate proposal to council. But for now, at least, given that there is a potential opportunity to essentially leverage council's contribution by a factor of 1 to 10, the recommendation is that council endorse the application.
Thank you, Director Sigona. Is there any questions, councillors? Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Mr. Sigona, bear with me. I've got a couple. Is there likely to be any additional costs or responsibilities for council around building maintenance if the grant is approved and the proposed upgrade goes ahead?
Thanks, Councillor Whitfield. Through you, Madam Mayor. The facility is located on Crown land, and the Committee of Management is a a Crown land or a state government appointed committee. And as such, they would be responsible for all ongoing management and maintenance and other operating costs associated with the facility. And from a council point of view, in terms of the running of the project itself, it would essentially be an operating run through the operating budget. So money in, money out, not a capital project and not incurring a depreciation expense. So there should not be an ongoing requirement for any council ongoing expense associated with the project longer term.
Thank you. Has the current Committee of Management indicated to council that they can cope with an increase of maintenance responsibilities?
Thanks, Councillor Whitfield. Again, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we've been in, council office has been in fairly regular dialogue with the Rec Reserve Committee of Management. And in particularly recent times, once the current application has been scoped, we've been able to have some more direct engagement with them on the specific project proposal. And they've indicated to us that they, first of all, acknowledge the fact that ongoing maintenance and operating costs and so forth is the responsibility of the committee going forward. And they've given us some assurance that they have the capacity to meet those costs going forward.
Thank you. When this project was first raised, it was about $2 million. It's now rising up to 4.8 million in what seems a relatively short time. Does our contribution, council's contribution, have to increase with that increase in what we're getting?
Councillor Whitfield, I think you might be referring to some costings that were perhaps done in 2017-18, thereabouts.
Yep.
Those costings were done on a more modest version of the project. I think at that stage it was essentially just around a change room upgrade, a substantial change room upgrade, but certainly nothing to the extent that is being proposed at this point. I'm unfamiliar what council may have been looking back then in terms of a possible contribution to the project. But in more recent times, over recent months, as we've been engaging with the Growing Suburbs Fund, initially around a project that might have been in somewhere between 2 and 3 million, we were still looking at a council contribution of the level that we're proposing now. So the opportunity here is potentially to attract some additional Growing Suburbs funding without increasing the council contribution.
That's good, thanks. And last one, if GPS were awarded this funding through the Growing Suburbs application, would that place us down the list if we were to apply again for another project?
Thanks, Councillor Whitfield, and through you, Madam Mayor. No, look, we don't believe so. It's a substantial funding program, the Growing Suburbs Fund. It's only open to 16 councils, including 6 peri-urbans. And the total amount that we've requested, the Golden Plains has requested over the 3 funding rounds, represents a fairly small percentage of the total prize pool, as it were, about 3%. In our discussions with the Growing Suburbs Fund, they seem to be quite encouraging of further applications into the future. So we don't anticipate that this application alone would reduce our chances of further funding from that fund in the future.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Stephen. If you can confirm from information received today, my understanding now is that currently the maintenance of the current facility is around 30,000 a year, which is currently funded by the Reserve Committee of Management and applicable user groups.
That's my understanding, yes.
Yeah, it's a pretty significant contribution, isn't it?
The 30,000?
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there any other questions for Director Sigona? Okay, no questions. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
We have a recommendation before us, councillors. Number one, that endorse the submission of the grant application to the Growing Suburbs Fund for the Rockwood Community Hub and Pavilion upgrade. Number two, note that council officers will continue to consider and engage on a revised scope and costing options for the Rockwood Community Hub and Pavilion upgrade in the event of an alternate lesser funding amount being proposed to council by the Growing Suburbs Fund. Do I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Whitfield. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Getson. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'm pleased to move the recommendation to endorse the application and note that scaling the project, if lesser funding is offered, is an option. I thank Mr. Sigona for his responses to my question, and I note that the application would not prejudice other applications. The current Committee of Management have indicated they are capable of any additional maintenance responsibilities. Councillors today received a letter from that Committee of Management stating they have yearly maintenance costs of $30,000, which they manage, and that it is anticipated with any upgrade, costs would actually lower. This opportunity for a significant upgrade to Rockwood facilities will have a wide-reaching benefit for those from the central part of the Shire. The proposal meets the principles outlined in Council's Community Services Infrastructure Plan by being multi-purpose, enabling an equitable spread of infrastructure across the Shire, meeting the needs of the community, providing for community social connections, and enabling diverse physical activities, and it increases the attractiveness and livability of the Central Shire area. There has been funding allocated from this year's budget to enable this submission to the Growing Suburbs Fund, and the funding provided was to initially levy about $2 million, but since the project's inception, as we've just heard, the design is more substantive and the cost of materials and labour has increased. So the project will now require 4.8. But the good news being Council's contribution remains the same. If the application is successful, this would be a real boost for Central Golden Plains. I'm happy to see the application go ahead, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Getson, would you like to speak to the
Yeah,
motion?
thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Whitfield has probably nearly said it all, but I might add that Ben Jordan and his crew have done a magnificent job in assessing this. Also, that we must remember that Rockwood is in the centre of the Shire. They're also under the umbrella of the Central Highlands Football League. So we have clubs coming from greater areas that have really modern facilities. So with this, it'll get Rockwood back up to scratch, and I could see probably days when it could even be finals down there. So I think it's a great, and I'm happy to support that as well, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Getson. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Any? Councillor Sharkey?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Look, I will be voting for this. I will be supporting this, but I elect to put my hand up to speak against it to highlight that this for me personally isn't an easy decision. It's come after much deliberation on this. This landed on our desks as councillors 3 weeks ago at a strategic meeting. So. Appreciating that we have this as a priority project and we have done so for a number of years, it has been identified as a $2 million spend. Now suddenly it's up to $5 million, which should raise alarm bells for anyone sensibly minded, fiscally minded. A substantial increase, and very difficult to understand. My understanding of the Growing Suburbs Fund is that it is for growing suburbs, and we as Golden Plains have fought really hard to get into that fund. And my understanding of growing suburbs was Backers Marsh, Bannockburn, townships that are growing at such fast rates that councils can't keep up with the infrastructure on them. So appreciating that Rockwood isn't a highly fast growing township in comparison to the likes of Backers Marsh. So $5 million, it comes as a significant increase. I still have concerns about the way in which we conduct these and go about this. This came on our desk 3 weeks ago. The officers have submitted after that strategic meeting. It was applied for. We had another briefing on it, so we had a strategic meeting, briefing meeting, and then we are here today. I have highlighted to all councillors, I have written many emails in to the mayor and all councillors. I will not, I stand as probably one of the only councillors here who has not ever voted behind closed doors. So I'm extremely happy that this conversation, whilst it may be a difficult one for some, it is here in the public domain, and we are being open and transparent. So I'm glad that we have taken that direction after a lot of angst from me in terms of decisions made behind closed doors.
Point of order, Councillor Sharkey. Point of order. No one has made a decision behind closed doors. It was brought up at the strategic meeting, and I just think this is why we're here tonight, to move it in front of, to be moved by a resolution of council. Thank you.
Yeah, just noting that briefing days are for asking questions and listening to officers, as opposed to giving your personal opinion on what applications should be applied for and what shouldn't be applied for. There is, so for me, this is a decision that's made in 3 weeks on a $5 million spend. There needs to be larger conversations by us as councillors with regards to the risk. Appreciating the Committee of Management are spending a lot of money on the current building. They have the best of intentions to be able to pay for the building going forward. It may or may not be more expensive or less expensive. No one actually knows the answer to that question with regards to what is the ongoing running costs of a $5 million building and what that actually means from insurance to ongoing costs. Nobody has the actual answers to that. We haven't costed that. We don't have the figures for that. So whilst we may aspire and hope that we may do that, there is a risk element that we should be discussing. What happens if the Committee of Management down there fold or something happens? There's plenty of committee managements around the Shire that have the roller coaster rides and the risk then to council and that ongoing cost. And then also strategically, the ongoing conversations, if Rockwood are to receive this building and all that, what ramifications does that have on the Shire Hall down there, open spaces down there, as assets become offline and we continue to maintain them? So I am supporting this here tonight. It will be, as identified by previous councillors, it will be a tough decision if it comes back and asking for more funds. I would personally, having seen the likes of Bowling Club contribute and others, it would be nice to see that contribution by football club and others to be higher than what it is. But I do wish the Rockwood community the best of luck with this. The Rockwood Football Club down there is one of the best football clubs we've got in the Shire, a true football club with representing all Golden Plains Shire residents. So it is good that it's in the township there. Wish them all the best of luck. But for me, it hasn't been an easy decision, and I do want to highlight those risks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Is there anyone who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a much needed upgrade and redevelopment of the Rockwood Recreation Reserve. It's been raised by the Committee of Management and user groups, and it's also was in the 2014 Council plan to prepare the reserve master plan for this facility community precinct. It's also extremely pleasing to see local groups and stakeholders being engaged and indicating support for this proposed project. A successful grant application to the Growing Suburbs Fund will see a much needed upgrade and redevelopment of this community asset. If successful, the grant will deliver a facility that will not only offer direct benefits to the local community, but will also assist in attracting participants and user groups from other nearby communities. I think, and I can understand some of Councillor Sharkey's words, but I think this is a real opportunity for Rockwood and the central part of the Shire. So I will be supporting the officers' recommendation, and I also wish the council officers and the teams involved in this grant application every success for a successful outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, thanks very much, Madam Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I just had a bit of trouble getting it off mute. Anyway, look, listen, look, I support the application for the funding. In a sense, a ratio of 1 to 10 in relation to funding, it all sounds good. So we'll just see what happens moving forward. I'd just like to say if funding comes in under what we're applying for, then no doubt there's going to be some serious conversations and decisions to make at a later time. Also, a lot of the councillors have had some very valid points made here tonight on this project, and moving forward, I'd just like to say that maybe the football and netball club of Rockwood, they may need to contribute more if possible down the track. I know at Bannockburn with the upgrade of the bowls club, for example, there was a contribution there of 140,000 from the bowls club to that upgrade, and it wasn't within a bull's roar of what we're spending here. But look, listen, there's no harm done, as I say, in putting in an expression of interest here for funding, and we'll just see what happens, because you know, Rockwood's been crying out to upgrade facilities up there. So yeah, I'll be supporting it. You know, providing we can get the funding.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Anyone like to speak against the motion? For the motion, Councillor Gamble. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I support the application for funding of this grant. I acknowledge it is a very large amount, quite surprising, but that's the reality we've been told of the escalating costs, particularly in the building environment we're in. Hopefully it'll come down in the future, but Golden Plains Shire is only contributing a set amount of 442,000, and I recognise there will be ongoing facility costs, but I also recognise the greater importance of major team sport to especially more remote and largely family farming communities. They don't have the luxury of being able to share facilities that, like in Teesdale, for example, we do have the ability to go to Bannockburn or to Inverleigh with their lights and better facilities at the moment for the higher level competition grade, which we don't actually have in Teesdale. But in Rockwood, they're remote from larger population areas. Not totally remote, but difficult to get to training and back and things like that. Rockwood does serve as quite a big area and has demonstrated long-term commitment and support to its footy and netball teams. And I think that's significant. It's been an issue for them for quite some time. Councillor Getson was recounting his somewhat dismay at the state of their facilities in his umpiring days, and it hasn't been upgraded since then. Not that you weren't that you weren't umpiring that long ago, Ian, but anyway, a large part of this grant is based on its importance as a community hub, as one of the criteria for this funding, and that may prove to be a little bit difficult. It's not the perfect match, this grant, to the proposal, but I hope that we do get it. But I'd also like to mention that I think that we could and should perhaps have other suitable projects going on into the future that will perhaps match up a little bit more strongly to the proposal, to the funding body's requirements. Not that this one doesn't, but it's not the perfect fit. And I believe that going forward, we need to have some more sort of projects ready for this type of recurring grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there anyone? I think everyone has spoken tonight. Okay, I'll now ask Councillor Whitfield if he would like to close the debate. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll just touch on a couple of points. Firstly, this is greater than just Rockwood. This is the Central Shire area that's going to attract people for this multi-use facility. Also, in our contribution, I believe there's about 130,000 for a septic upgrade that is well and truly needed. The scope of the project struck us all at the briefing with as a bit of a bone of contention. It's, there's terms like the Taj Mahal and pyramids and things going out there because it's such a grand scale. But I'd remind people that the recommendation here says that it can be scaled back depending on the funding that comes in. And with these funding applications that happen at short notice, we don't decide when they become available. We get informed, and we have to make the best we can in that short time frame. We did, in the couple of briefings that we've had, absolutely grill officers in regards to potential financial impacts going forward for council. And I believe most of us have been satisfied with those answers. So fully support the application going in, Madam Mayor. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Okay, councillors, so I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Just a note, there has been an increase of 40% in building costs of late, and I do appreciate that this is probably where the greater funding amount has come out of the increase in building costs. Item 7.6, adoption of the governance rules. I'll ask Director O'Sullivan to briefly introduce this report. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So at your meeting on the 28th of September 2021, the Council resolved to place on public exhibition the draft governance rules amendments in accordance with Section 60 of the Local Government Act 2020. The proposed amendments to the governance rules provided for public exhibition for a 3-week period from the 29th of September through to the 19th of October. No public submissions were received, and therefore the governance rules are now presented for adoption. The main areas for improvement of the governance rules was to provide additional clarity, definition and structure to procedural aspects of the council meeting process. And the amendments have now proposed is included on clarity in relation to unscheduled meetings and putting forward notice of motions. It is now recommended that council adopt the revised governance rules. Thanks.
Thank you, Director O'Sullivan. Is there any questions for the Director Councillors? No questions? Okay, thank you, Director. We have a recommendation before us, councillors, that council note that the proposed amendments to the governance rules were placed on public exhibition for a period of 3 weeks with no submissions received, and 2, adopts the governance rules attachment 1. Do I have a mover? Councillor Gamble.
Amendment, please.
Okay, we have an amendment. Would you like to let us know what that is? Thank you, Councillor Gamble.
That the proposed amendments to the governance rules are brought back to the chamber for re-evaluation in a period of 6 months, please.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Do we have a seconder to the amendment?
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Sharkey.
We don't, or a point of clarity.
Sorry, an alternative.
We don't have. We're seeking an amendment to a motion, but we don't have a motion. So I'm a little bit confused. We don't have a motion to make an amendment to, so I'm confused. I'm confused.
Thank you. Ms. Wright, would you have a bit of confirmation there for us, please? Or Mr. CEO?
Yeah, I can answer this, Rosie, that there isn't a motion that has been put, so therefore there's no ability to amend. If Councillor Gamble is looking to put a motion that includes those points that were included in the officer recommendation with the addition of a 3rd point, he would be putting an alternative motion. I'm not sure if that's what he was intending to do or not. And I don't have the words again for that 3rd point. So we'll just need to get clarification of those words.
Thank you very much. So thank you, Councillor Gamble.
Yes, that was my my proposal to accept the motion, the recommendation, but just to have my proposition put to the end of it.
Thank you. So would you like
to... Sorry, and again, could you clarify the words because we haven't seen those before?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I thought they were reasonably simple to jot down. That the proposed amendments to the governance rules, or I should say to this recommendation, are brought back to the chamber for re-evaluation in a period of 6 months.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Do we have a seconder to Councillor Gamble's recommendation? Alternate recommendation, Councillor Whitfield. Thank you. Would you like to speak on the alternative, Councillor Gamble?
I think it's fairly self-evident that it's just a safeguard mechanism, as far as I intend to reevaluate it and see how it's going, because I believe there are significant changes to the way we operate as a council, particularly in terms of notice of motion. And I think it would be good to have a re-evaluation in a reasonable period of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'm happy with the recommendation before us, and with the added component of reviewing it in 6 months, as Councillor Gamble has suggested. Yes, look, these rules were placed on public exhibition for 3 weeks, and didn't receive any submissions from the public. The rules are being amended as a result of some efficiency and clarity improvements that were identified. The rules are there to help councillors comply with the Act and ensure we provide direction with regard to process and policy. The detail and degree of the governance rules will vary depending on the councillor group. I believe these latest amendments are commensurate with this group. It's basically a case of fine-tuning this document. It sits in the background, but it provides clarity, definition and structure to our meeting process. And I'm happy to adopt these governance rules, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there any councillor? Thank you, Councillor Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make an amendment to the motion. And that is with adopting this, as I circulated round to councillors today. I have a concern regarding item 25.2.2 there, with the allowance of $100,000 on a notice of motion. So I did want to reduce that from $100,000 down to $10,000.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Do we have a seconder to the second alternative motion? Councillor Cunningham. Would you like to speak on it, Councillor Sharkey?
Yes, so that amendment is there. So currently the wording there allows a councillor to bring a notice of motion and could put council to spending up to $100,000 without a report coming to council. So it is my hope that safeguards us as a council, that if a council brings forward a notice of motion and the costings of that are in excess of $10,000, then a subsequent report would come to the next briefing. So that's not eliminating it. It's just a safeguard there that a report would come back the following month for determination. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I just support, I think, Councillor Sharkey's covered it off pretty well with what he said and his thoughts, and why he's put that forward. So I think it does make a lot of sense. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion, councillors? Thank you, Councillor Gamble.
I'd like to speak against Councillor Sharkey's amendment to my amendment,
Yep.
if that's okay.
Yes, that's fine.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. It's not an amendment to an amendment. It's an amendment to the motion that's been put. So it's in addition to Councillor Campbell's motion. It's not an amendment to any of his. It's in addition to the motion, as a point of clarity.
Thank you.
Good point accepted. Just that I believe that we shouldn't if we have a notice of motion, it may be for something urgent that's happening that needs addressing. And as councillors, we may need to direct resources to an issue that needs some priority. And I think that there should be flexibility and reserve built into the budget for contingencies and issues such as what can be raised in notice of motions. So I believe that we don't need this extra amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there any other councillors who'd like to speak? Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm probably just speaking out loud as I absorb this conversation. Reducing the amount from 100,000 down to 10 as a safeguard does sound like a good idea to me. The potential, although low, for perhaps nonsensical motions to get up, we don't want to risk those. So the safeguard, I think is valid, and frankly, I can't see where the bucket of money is sitting between budget preparation and cycles to start dipping in $100,000 at a time. I completely understand Councillor Gamble's point about the sense of urgency being addressed at times, but I'm not sure as a councillor group we should be stepping outside the set plan, the council plan, etc., and the yearly plan to add in $100,000 projects and create extra workload, etc. So I'll probably back the amendment, I think. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there any further discussion, councillors? Councillor Rowe.
Not sure if he's trying to get off mute.
He is. Sometimes it's a bit tricky.
You can just hold down your space bar, Councillor Rowe.
What we might do is we might just recess for 10 minutes, just while Councillor Rowe goes in, is trying to have trouble muting it. Can I have a mover? Councillor Gamble, do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. We'll resume in 10 minutes.
I'll just move you all into the waiting room.
All right, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you.
Hey, Liz. Has it? Yeah. It might, I'm just trying to think. You might, how's it going now? Is it still?
Thank you, councillors. We're just waiting for Councillor get some. Yep, he's back. And everyone's back. Thank you. How'd you go, Councillor Rowe? Were you able to get it off mute? Got it.
Yeah. I've got internet problems, Madam Mayor, but anyway, yeah. No,
thank you. I just thought we'd take that break just to get that fixed up.
All I'd like to, yeah, I think all I was going to say, sort of throwing me out a bit, but all I was going to say was, I think going from 100K, Councillor Sharkey's requested down to 10K. I think it sounds very responsible as far as financial things go. I consider. So, yeah, I'll go with that.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Okay, is there any further discussion on Councillor Sharkey's amended motion? If there's no further discussion, we'll put his amendment.
Happy to close that, Madam Mayor.
There's no right of reply for an amendment. So we'll just put it to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment reducing down to $10,000? All those in favour? Carried. So we'll now revert back to Councillor Gamble's amendment of having it a 6-month review. So I will put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Sorry, Councillor Kirby, just for clarification, we've got a substantive motion, which was the officer recommendation plus the 6 months as review as requested by Councillor Gamble, plus the addition of the changes as put and accepted by the amendment with the amendment. So that all that bundled together now becomes the substantive motion that's in front of council.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. CEO. All right, so we'll go back to the, that now becomes a substantive motion. So is there any further questions, councillors, against the motion? Any for the motion? Councillor Sharkey, thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So we're speaking for this motion. I think tonight's conversation probably does highlight for us a fact that we probably have not discussed this as a council group as much as what I would have liked to have seen. It is a very good process to go through. It's an educational process for us as councillors. I don't believe we have spent enough time as councillors. We have deferred this. We've had plenty of opportunities. Councillors have requested to the Mayor for this to be a standalone conversation, which hasn't occurred at briefings. It would be good. Hopefully with the review that comes up in 6 months, we can, I think new councillors coming up on 12 months now will be 18 months old. There will be a different appreciation for some of these governance rules. And whilst I always harp on it about these governance rules or these documents that are put, in my personal opinion, should be set in concrete by the state government and filtered down to all levels of council. And appreciating that councils then can tweak and change it. But what happens when these governance rules come, especially having had the new Local Government Act come in, is it's a mass exercise of all councils sharing this round, copying and cutting and pasting and putting them together. and they are so specific to individual councils. What might be good governance rules for one set of councillors isn't good for the next, and we can mould them. Councillor Gamble has asked for this to come back in 6 months. There is nothing stopping any councillor at any stage, if that wasn't there, to bring those through for review. So I am happy with that inclusion of reducing that down from $100,000, just to force us as councillors to be a little bit more strategic, appreciating that council could do that 12 times a year and at a cost of $1.2 million to council. So there is the changes there. If there was a state of emergency, or if there was emergency circumstances, we can come together, and appreciating that we have changed that now, that the mayor has to have a couple of signatures to that. So if there was an emergency there to purchase a church or do whatever needs to be done, we can do that. But it will need the mayor plus a couple of councillors to do that. So it is fair and honest. It forces us to be more strategic as a collective group of councillors. And I look forward to those being endorsed here tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Is there anyone who would like to speak against the motion? Anyone who'd like to speak for the motion? If not, I will ask Councillor Gamble if he'd like to close the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. In supporting this recommendation, I just note that many councils raise their notice of motions at the beginning of their agenda items. So it really is quite a there are quite different ways of going about it, and obviously people do prefer having that flexibility and individual arrangement that they can have for their particular council. Also, I'd like to note there are positive changes that I'm all for in this government rules changes, including the change from a 7-day period for notification of a notice of motion to a 6-day period. I was finding myself that it was all becoming too difficult to manage everything all on the briefing day. So this 6-day period will give us a chance to get together and reflect and have a conversation, particularly straight after the briefing day, but still give the executive plenty of time to process it. Also, the requirement of a seconder and with increasing experience we have as a new group of councillors, I'm confident this will all lead to improved performance. But I would also note that I don't really believe there has been much of a problem that's really brought on these governance rule changes. They haven't taken much extra time. They've involved no extra expense in officers' time or resources. The nominations put forward have reflected real concerns about issues worth addressing. If a nomination is without merit, even now, it doesn't get passed and the meeting has gone on a little longer, but a valid community concern has been voiced in the chamber. It's been represented, and that's what we're here to do, to give voice to disparate views and concerns in the community. And the notice of motion is, in my opinion, a powerful way to do that. So with these changes to the governance rules, I'm confident that we can, I think it's good that we have a period where we can see how they go, and then we'll reevaluate them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. I will now put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Sorry, Councillor Rowe, I'm just not sure if you were for or against. I'll redo it. All those for the motion? Thank you. Carried unanimously. And just a note that any two councillors can bring anything to the attention for a special meeting as well. Thank you. Item 7.8, Councillor draft sexual harassment policy for review. I'll ask the Director to briefly introduce the report. Thank you. Director O'Sullivan.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, 7.7.
7.7, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I've jumped the page. Sorry. Item 7.7, Draft Domestic Animal Management Plan 2022 to 2025. I will ask Director Josipovic to briefly introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councils are required to develop and review a domestic animal management plan every 4 years, pursuant to the Domestic Animal Act 1994. The plan is required to specify in detail how council will manage domestic animals and promote responsible pet ownership. The plan is required to be submitted to the Department of Jobs, Precincts and Regions by the end of 2021. It should be noted the scope of the plan is limited to domestic dogs and cats. Prior to updating preparation of the plan, a survey was posted by council officers online relating to domestic animals, and council received 326 responses. The results of the survey are summarised in the report before you tonight and have assisted the development of the plan. Throughout the plan, there are a number of actions that council officers will be required to investigate and undertake over the life of the plan. Also, under the Act, council is required to update the plan yearly. A summary of proposed actions, as well as the status of actions included in the previous version of the plan, are attached to the report for your information. The recommendation before you tonight is that council endorse the draft domestic animal management plan for public exhibition. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Director. Any questions of the Director, councillors? No questions? Okay. Okay, do I have a move it to the motion? Councillor Whitfield and Councillor Cunningham, thank you. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion? You're just on mute, Councillor Whitfield.
How's that?
Thank you. Yep.
Sorry, apologies. Yeah, happy to move the recommendation, have this draft domestic animal management plan go out for public exhibition. It was great to see so many responded to that online survey, and that they have had influence in the development of the plan. Looking through the plan, I find it interesting and good to see that the investigation of a fenced dog park and introduction of litter bags and bins is going to get looked at. Look, dogs and cats are integral family members for so many of us, and the companionship provided by these animals is incredibly beneficial. This plan aims to ensure that the amenity of others, the native fauna and farmers' livestock aren't affected by our choices to have pets. We have almost 6,000 registered dogs in the Shire and about 1,300 registered cats. It's well known that not everyone registers their pets, but they should, as it helps with council's ability to manage this sector. I would encourage all dog and cat owners to have a look at this draft while it's out for exhibition. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following on from Councillor Whitfield's comments, I find the proposed domestic animal management plan to be a fair and balanced policy, and support officers' recommendation for council to endorse the draft policy going to public exhibition. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Is there anyone who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Gamble, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Be interesting to see further community feedback on this draft policy. It's an increasing issue in the interface areas with greater urbanisation in our Shire, but also more development of urban settings up against natural environments, such as the new development in Inverleigh. And I was in reading this document, which is very good. I was thinking further on the notion of responsible ownership, and I was reflecting my own childhood about what was acceptable in the past is not acceptable now. It used to be okay to have dogs chasing cars and posties and even paper boys. I remember I used to deliver in the late afternoon Herald after school, and my first racing bike with a way too oversized frame, could barely keep it upright with one leg when I stopped. And more than once I had a couple of super aggro Jack Russell type dogs gnawing at my ankle as I was just trying to keep balance. Anyway, I mentioned that to the point being that we have to think of the rights of others far more than what we used to do in these matters. And I would add, perhaps more importantly, the rights of other species as well, including animals and plants to even exist. And don't get me wrong, I'm a dog and cat lover, but we do have to recognise the impact, particularly cats have on our native species, particularly mammals. And dogs also have problems as well when they get loose with sheep, etc. But local extinctions are a real problem in our environment. And Australia has a shameful mammal extinction rate, and I think the policy could be somewhat stronger in terms of ensuring responsible cat ownership in particular. But like I started with, it'll be interesting to see what we get back from the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for the motion? Against the motion? If not, I will ask Councillor Whitfield if he'd like to close the debate. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. No, happy to leave it there and see what I assume will be many submissions that come in on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 7.8, the Councillor draft sexual harassment policy for review. Thank you, Director O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In February 2021, the Audit and Risk Committee and the Council were presented with the findings from an audit conducted by the Victorian Auditor General's Office on sexual harassment across the local government sector. Two of the recommendations out of the audit were to introduce a standalone sexual harassment policy for councillors, and the second was to ensure councillors are informed on their internal and external options for sexual harassment support and complaints, including the council's employee assistance program and councillors' code of conduct, dispute resolution processes, and external complainant bodies. In order to address these recommendations, a standalone draft councillor sexual harassment policy has been developed, which is consistent with the staff policy that has been drafted, but provides specific references to the councillor's code of conduct and the councillor's dispute resolution policy. The policy is now attached for councillors' adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. Director O'Sullivan, is there any questions, councillors? No questions? All right, thank you for the report. Thanks. Okay, so we have that recommendation in front of us, councillors. Do I have a motion? Do I have a mover? Councillor Cunningham. Do I have a seconder? Do we have a seconder, councillors? Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This policy links to the already relevant council policies and procedures and is consistent with staff policies. The adoption of this policy would also contribute towards implementing a positive workplace culture and an environment where there is confidence in the compliant handling process and encourages and supports all parties involved in the process. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, Madam Mayor, thank you. Yeah, happy to adopt the sexual harassment policy. It's another step towards complying with the 11 recommendations to come from Vargo's audit into sexual harassment in local government. I know it's worth noting councillors have completed training from the Municipal Association Victoria on sexual harassment. And there are due dates for each of these 11 actions that were asked to be implemented, and the 31st of December 2021, they should all be in place. The policy does, as Councillor Cunningham say, reference our code of conduct and councillor dispute resolution policies, and aids in our compliance with the Equal Opportunity Act 2010 and the Gender Equality Act 2020. Yeah, it's just following on from some of the brave work to release our statistics from that Vargo report. So, yeah, good stuff. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Gamble, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to back up Councillor Whitfield and Cunningham, I'd just like to say it does provide clear procedures and guidance on a process should a situation arise. And it's to back up a zero tolerance approach adopted by the Golden Plains Shire Council, or the Shire, which I believe we all endorse as a councillor group. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for the motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor Cunningham if he'd like to close.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing else to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll then put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 7.10, COVID-19 Hardship Assistance and Recovery Plan.
7.9, actually, Finance Quarter 1.
Twice now, I've skipped the page. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. Director O'Sullivan, if you'd like to introduce the report.
Of course. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as at 30th of September 2021, the income statement reports a total operating revenue of 32.3 million and total operating expenditure of 9.5 million. This results in a year-to-date surplus of 22.7 million. Our revenue is higher because we send out all of our notices at the start of the year, and therefore we accrue that revenue to the start of the year, and that gradually comes down as we get close to the end of the year. This is 2.1 favourable compared to the original budget and 1.8 million favourable to the revised budget. Some of the main reasons relate to we've already had some higher rates and charges revenue budgeted due to the higher growth throughout the Shire. We've also had, on the offsetting that though, is lower contribution income, which is relating to the developer contributions. And we will really have to look at that forecast going forward. We've also had lower user fees and charges that were budgeted, but this related to a timing issue, and this will be resolved again in quarter 2. Contracts and materials are lower than revised budget, again, just as we start to incorporate some of the contracts ready to go for quarter 2. And our employee costs are also tracking below. A couple of reasons for this is in relation to a work cover payment that will be processed in quarter 2. We've also haven't taken up as much leave as what we normally have. And also there's been around $320,000 worth of savings in vacant positions that are currently being filled. The capital work statement highlights that we've already spent $7 million, which is 4.4 million above budget, 2.5 million above the revised. Again, relating to some projects commencing earlier than expected. And probably just to note that there's also a significant number of contracts that have been awarded this quarter, and as a result, we'll see those projects commencing in Q2. Thanks.
Thanks, Director O'Sullivan. Any questions, councillors? No questions? All right, thank you, Director O'Sullivan. Oh, hold on, Councillor Rowe.
Just one there, if I can, Pip. The Slate Quarry Road rehabilitation, that's all finished, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Okay. That was all. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll ask, do we have a mover to the recommendation?
Oh.
Councillor Whitfield, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Sorry, I didn't see who put their hand up second. Councillors, can you help me out who put their hand up next? Councillor Rowe, thank you. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, Director O'Sullivan has just read out some of the reasons that we're in a much better than expected position, 1.8 million better than the revised budget. I had a bit of a different look at the finance quarter report this time round. One thing that we're working on that might stand out to some is that the lower than budgeted developer contributions is disappointing, but council is working on incorporating development contribution plans to address that. But one thing that stood out for me was, and it sneaks up on you a bit, is just how many projects are underway at the moment. A number of significant projects that have been awarded this quarter, such as the Bannockburn Skate Park lighting, the Lethbridge cricket practice nets, the Linton practice cricket nets, the Paddy's Gully Road Bridge replacement, which all results in the continuation of great infrastructure works across the Shire. And something else I picked out of it was the actual capital spend at the end of Q1 is above the original and revised budget. And it's not because things are going over budget, but it's because council has commenced constructing and delivering a number of projects ahead of schedule. Some of the projects that have started earlier or have progressed further than what had been budgeted to be spent in this quarter include the Napoleon's Bore, Bannockburn Vic Park court upgrade, Enfield Playground, local roads improvements, in Inverleigh Sporting Complex, Bannockburn Soccer Club, female-friendly change rooms, the Bannockburn Youth Hub, and other bridge rehabilitations. It would seem to me that the capital works team is really kicking goals. Yeah, I'm very happy to note the contents of this quarterly finance report. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Rowe, would you like to speak?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to commend the officers on being how active they've been. To be honest with you, because there is a huge amount of projects, there in the pipeline, as you can see. Some have just been completed. Some will be completed perhaps early November, end of October, with the Inverleigh upgrades on the sporting complex and etc. So yeah, I just like to commend the officers on a lot of these projects, and especially getting some of these projects up and off the out of the box early, as I'd say. So as you can see, there's been plenty going on during this quarter, or the last quarter, I should say, from the 1st of July to the 30th of September. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Gamble, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to note that, so well said to Councillor Whitfield and Rowe. I agree. There's much to commend, and both in the transparency level and the delivery of projects, and to celebrate and acknowledge the delivery of all of these projects, which are detailed on the agenda. Also, just the fact that we're 1.8 million favourable to a revised budget is really good as well. So thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there any other councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor Whitfield to close. Thank you.
Nothing further to add. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. If not, I will put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. And just on that, as we have seen in that report, we have had an increase of people moving into our shire. So we, as a councillor group, we will welcome all those new residents, and hopefully they're seeing some really good value for money with all the projects that are on hand at the moment. Item 7.10, the COVID-19 Hardship Assistance and Recovery Plan. Thank you, Director O'Sullivan.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Council developed a package of financial relief options for local residents and businesses in response to COVID-19 pandemic during last year through the 2019-20 year. We have continued that into the 2021. We're in 21-22 year now, sorry. Council has continued to provide this assistance to the customers, and this rebate continues with 50,000 allocated to our 21-22 budget, and in addition we allocated an additional 50,000 for the development and implementation of a mental health program to respond to the needs of the community across the Shire. A total of 13,700 of rebates have been provided to 29 customers that have seen hardship and have met the criteria. And I'm also pleased to say that the expression of interest for the provision of mental health services was scoped and developed to seek innovative responses. And this was, we've seen the EOI close on the 6th of October with the contract to be awarded by Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors? No questions? All right, thank you for the report, Director. So the recommendation that Council note the assistance provided to our customers through the COVID-19 financial hardship policy in 2021-22. Do I have a motion, councillors? Do I have a mover? Councillor Sharkey. Do I have a seconder, Councillor Cunningham? Thank you. Mover, would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Sharkey?
Very much, Madam Mayor. This is again, this one constantly comes up and gives us keeps a finger on the pulse, so to speak, with regards to our community, and it's a very good opportunity for us. And I know probably at briefings we have a more in-depth conversation and sort of really analyse those figures and numbers, because this report that comes to us is a very good indication of genuine hardship in the community. So there is the uptake on this is continuing to be strong for those that need it, but also appreciating that last year held a lot more uncertainty for a lot of people. And one of the things that I truly appreciate and love about this policy is that it has moulded it has adapted, it has constantly changed along the journey. A year and a half ago now, when we passed the budget, there was much contention on this policy and what it brought. But what we didn't know 18 months ago was what was ahead of us. We didn't know, fair to say, as a collective council or a collective community, we've been on a roller coaster ride. Some people have and are continuing to do a lot better than what they expected. Some people have ridden through COVID hard times very well, whilst other people, and particularly businesses, and more so this year with businesses than last year with the removal of JobKeeper and that, are struggling through this. So this isn't going to change people's lives, but it definitely is helping. And it is warming and quite pleasing to hear that there is a couple of submissions coming in there. And I do note that the recent youth survey that has come through has highlighted with a lot of youth in the Shire that they're going through their own hardship as a group. I know with 3 young kids at home, there's a lot of hardship had on a mental front from kids at home, and kids unable to play with friends and things like that. So this policy has adapted. It's something that we as a council should be extremely proud of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Cunningham.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Not much to add to Councillor Sharkey's words, but just to reinforce that the additional amount of $50,000 for the development and implementation of a mental health program is a great initiative, and it's going to respond to the needs of the community going forward and coming out of COVID. And yes, I would ask the other council officers, the other councillors, to please support this officer's recommendation to note this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? If not, Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, I'd just like to be honest with you, I'd like to commend, if I can, Councillor Sharkey on getting this policy up and running in the previous council. This was his baby at the time, and as you can see, he's directed the group along the way, especially with this $50,000 now that's he's putting towards, things like mental health and etc. So I'd just like to commend that again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? Councillor Gamble, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, thank you, Councillor Sharkey and Rowe. Yes, I'd just like to back up Councillor Rowe and acknowledging Councillor Sharkey with his contribution to the recovery initiative in terms of bringing it to council and to and particularly the provision of mental health support services in this recovery phase. So, yep, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for the motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor Sharkey if he would like to close.
So difficult. Thank you very much. Sorry, nothing further to add. Thank you kindly, Councillor Rowe and Councillor Gamble, for your kind words. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 7.11, the long-term financial plan. I'll ask Director O'Sullivan to briefly introduce the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So subsequent to previous council meetings, this is now requesting the council to adopt the 10-year long-term financial plan under Section 91 of the Local Government Act. The financial plan was placed on public exhibition for a 3-week period. As we didn't receive any submissions, we're now putting this report forward for adoption. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors? If not, thank you, Director. Do I have a mover to the motion? Councillor Sharkey. Do I have a seconder?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, just with the moving of the motion, I am moving the recommendation as it is written, and also adding a fourth point to it, a point in which I have circulated to all councillors during today so that they can be prepared. And that is, so I'll just read out the additional point number 4, that we also, in addition, request a report to be brought to the February 2022 councillor briefing to strategically consider options available to reduce council's debt levels, including what the long-term implications of a debt reduction strategy are, and B, options available to reduce the forecasted waste management charge. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Thank you. Councillor Sharkey, would you like to speak?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. This 10-year financial plan is it's a very good indication to the community. It's one that sort of sets the roadmap out ahead of us, and also highlights all the good, the bad, and the indifferent that's on the forecast for us. We have spoken about this. This has come to us. We have put it out for community consultation, and I suppose when something like this comes back and there's no further community engagement, it's pretty much rubber stamping it. But I probably would like to acknowledge, and it's probably something that we should maybe have a conversation about regarding community consultation during the period. I know I have spoken to several members in the community regarding this plan. I know there has been communications within social media world. There was articles picked up in the paper regarding this plan. So whilst we sit here and say that there is no formal communication, I think there's probably is a conversation to be had about sort of moulding together some of the feeling of the community. I know for me, some of the communications that I have had with community members is around that financial management and the level of debt that we hold as a council, and also the waste management charge. So the idea behind me putting forward this additional one is just to highlight that we as councillors appreciate that this is the roadmap going forward, but in doing so, we also acknowledge that there is some parts of this plan that we as a collective group have some strong concerns regarding. And I think one of them is the level of debt that we've got there, but also to look at that, hopefully a report coming back, identifying ways from drastic measures to reduce that debt, what that looks like, but also appreciating that the difference between good debt and bad debt. Nobody gets ahead in life unless you are in debt, and that's called good debt, and there is bad debt. So the idea of this is to not do anything drastic come February, but to strategically identify things and look at options that may be available to us to reward the community, because we have mentioned that the quarterly report has just mentioned there, we report in here, there's good news stories in there. There is, as the Mayor identified there, that there is people coming in, good growth happening. A lot of those people love Golden Plain Shire coming out here. I'm not too sure that they love the rate bill when it comes in. So there is things that we should be looking at. In this report, the waste management plan identifies that garbage by the end of this is going to be $1,085, compounded over those years. In a couple of years, it's going to be close to $700, which I did highlight the last time this came, and I did hope that may force a few people to make submissions into this. Geelong Addy did pick up on that and identify that. I've looked over a good few of these financial plans. I think we stand as one of the only councils that has identified the waste management cost. It's not a good news story, but it is what it is. But is there ways that we can reduce that cost? Is there ways that we should be moving some of our wins, growth money, sales from things? Is there some ways that we can reduce the garbage charge? Hopefully this report may challenge us to do exactly that. So I fully support the recommendation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing else to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there any councillors who would like to speak against the motion? Any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Rowe.
Look, listen, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, listen, I'd have to agree with Councillor Sharkey on a number of those comments he's made. Look, when you look at our financial figures at the moment, we've got a debt there of 13.2 million in 2021 year. We're only going to be treading water along the way for the next 10 years. We're going to, in 2031, the expectation is, I think, $11.2 million debt. So we need to reduce some of this debt, especially with the sale of the Lamantra Drive subdivision. Okay, we could put some of that back into it, or we could use some of this subdivision money to cap our the unused tips, considering this is a problem from future generations. It's something this council and a lot of people that are moving into the Shire have inherited. So I think it's only appropriate with some of that money, sale of that money, that we've had that land for years, and we inherited that land from the Shire of Lee going back with amalgamation. So I think that's very important. Anyway, that's all, Madam Mayor, and thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rowe. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Councillor Rowe and Councillor Sharkey put forward some very good discussion points there, and I look forward to the briefing days when we can work on those issues. There's a couple of things. They probably were mentioned, but I'd encourage, even we didn't get any submissions on this long-term financial plan, but I'd encourage residents to submit on these types of items, because as councillors, we value the input greatly, and the submissions do help us when it comes to guiding plans and policy. And I think it's good to point out that the long-term plan, it's not a fixed plan. It varies according to our annual inputs, and in fact, it's varied slightly since it was first put to us, in that some of the key assumptions have been updated, and the year 25-26 goes from an underlying deficit to one of surplus. So there's a bit of good news in that one already. Yeah, that's all I wanted to add. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion, for the motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor Sharkey to close.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just add one other point to that, which Councillor Whitfield has highlighted there, and in part highlighted there, is that community engagement. It's quite disappointing actually tonight for me. There's a lot of items here. I understand governance rules and things like that. Many people in the community probably don't partake in that, but these are the ones that you genuinely, as a councillor, love to sit down and listen to what community members have to say on that one. So I know as part of our briefing days, we do speak about community consultation. It is highlighted to us at briefing. how much effort that council does go into to try and get that engagement going. So we are given a report in terms of the social media posts that are out there, the advertisements in the paper and all that. So these things are well advertised, but as we all know and learn that when there is angst or there's something like that, it tends to generate a lot of interest. But items like this one, not so much so. But I would love to have seen some public submissions on this one. It is quite a valid and important document. But thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Okay, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.12, procurement policy update. Councillors, I'll take the report as presented. Do I have a mover, which the recommendation is that council adopt the procurement policy as attached? Do I have a mover? Councillor Whitfield. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, very procedural, with the inclusion of some updates to allow for collaborative procurement. This will give council a bit more buying power through economy of scale, and it's going to ensure some current projects council is involved in can continue. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak?
Nothing else to add to that. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? If not, I'll put Councillor Gamble.
Thank you, Mayor. Just as a general point, to note, there's several points I'd note that the extensive safeguards in place to ensure appropriate conduct in governance. Confidence. I have confidence in the internal controls and the oversight mechanisms involved in procurement. It's a very important area of council expenditure. And I'd like to thank the officers for their diligence in formulating this policy. It's an interesting one. It's often has to be done in confidence, a lot of these negotiations, yet it's got to also be highly transparent. So I'd also note that there's a extensive probity requirement here, and I'm confident that this policy reflects that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there anyone who'd like to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor Whitfield to close.
Nothing further to add. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 7.13, GPSC RFQ 11 2021, the motor grader replacement. I'll ask the Director, Mr. Josipovic, to briefly introduce the report.
Thank you, Mayor Kirby. Council's Asset Services Department is seeking to replace heavy fleet item William Adams Caterpillar P300 grader with a new motor grader. The current grader, P300, is just over 12.5 years old with over 10,000 hours of running time. Replacement of the grader is in line with the Institute of Public Works Engineering Australasia guidelines. The replacement motor grader is intended for use by Council's Road and Drainage Maintenance Unit to maintain Council's road shoulders on sealed roads, the gravel road network, and in construction associated with the renewal and upgrading of road networks. The tender was originally advertised on 28th of June 2021, closing on the 19th of July 21, with 3 submissions received on closing. The submissions were reviewed and compliance checked, with nil submissions identified as non-compliant. After the evaluation panel had reviewed and scored each tender individually and all clarifications were received, Consensus evaluation meetings were held on the 4th of August and 22nd of September of 2021. William Adams Proprietary Limited Model CAT 140 was chosen as a preferred supplier and model based on consensus scores measured by whether the submissions met the preferred specifications, service plans, track record, delivery time, and the operator review assessment, as well as local content and price. The budget allocation in the current financial year for replacement of this grader is $430,000. The full tender evaluation panel report has previously been provided to councillors for their information. The recommendation is that Council 1 resolves to award the contract RFQ 11-2021 motor grader to William Adams Proprietary Limited for the sum of $426,485 exclusive of GST, and 2, delegates to the Chief Executive Officer or his delegate authority to execute the contract on behalf of Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Director Josipovic. Any questions, councillors? No questions. Thank you, Mr. Josipovic. Okay, do I have a motion, councillors? Do I have a mover? Councillor Rowe? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sharkey? Councillor Rowe, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks very much, Madam Mayor. This is a very important piece of equipment, a road grader, in our fleet of equipment. It's particularly needed for our large grading program. As most will know, we have 4 graders in the fleet. We purchased 2 new graders back in 2018, and we took possession of them in April of 2019. And they were John Deere machines. I've always been a great Caterpillar person. I class Caterpillar as the Rolls-Royce machinery in the industrial equipment line. They have the best resale in agriculture, in industrial equipment by far. And it's good also to see that this grader has the ability down the track that they can attach a broom roller at the rear of it as well. So yeah, but anyway, I just want to support this, and I know last time there was a few issues wanting Caterpillars, but they reckon that they couldn't steer them. There wasn't a steering wheel, only using joysticks. But I think they might have got over that, some of the operators. So anyway, it's a good outcome, and I fully support this, and so will all the councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Councillor Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Yeah, this one's for me personally a very straightforward one. I do appreciate some of Councillor Rowe's comments there. Also, just wanted to highlight whether vehicle's got a joystick or a steering wheel. It's probably wasn't top of the agenda of the reasons why I got onto council. This one is $26,000 above the CEO delegation, and budgeted for. So I think there probably should be a conversation at some point whether items like this come to a council meeting. It is fairly straightforward. We support the procurement of officers. We've been through this a few times. I think there's a fairly safe understanding within the councillor group and appreciation for the work the officers do. Would our meetings be more effective if items like this didn't come up, and would we be able to, as a collective group of councillors, spend more time on strategically identified things like the report that I just brought up in the last item there? I'd prefer to be discussing those things. This is fairly straightforward and something that arguably shouldn't be here tonight, given it's only $26,000 above our CEO delegation. But thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillors who'd like to speak for the motion? If not, Councillor Rowe, I will let you close.
Yeah, no, I think it's fairly straightforward. I just got one bit of advice for Councillor Sharkey there. Like the CEO has a limit of 400k. We've got to put limits, you know, on people. So this comes in at 426k, and I disagree there with you that we should have just handballed this over, because, you know, it's good as councillors to have input in these in these decisions, and well, not so much input, but just see how the system is scored and etc. And I think that's very important moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. So, Councillor Rowe, we will not take that passion away from you.
Yeah, when it comes to tractors, I'm a John Deere man.
Okay. Item 7.14, the CEO employment and remuneration policy. I'll ask the director to briefly introduce.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Section 45 of the Local Government Act 2020 requires that council prepare and approve a CEO employment and remuneration policy by 31st of December 2021. The policy has been prepared by council officers and also reviewed by Maddocks lawyers to ensure that it complies with the requirements of the Act. And in addition, the policy also requires that an independent member is appointed to be part of the committee. It is now recommended that the recruitment process for this position commences immediately following approval by council. Thanks.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors? No questions? All right, thank you very much. So we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover? If not, it will lapse for the want. Thank you very much, Councillor Whitfield. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham, thank you. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion?
Okay, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, happy to adopt the CEO employment and remuneration policy. Look, it just ensures we're compliant with the requirements of the Local Government Act 2020, particularly around sections 44 and 45. Pretty straightforward. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Hey, Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Nothing else to add to Councillor Whitfield's comments there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any councillors councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Sharkey, thank you.
Thanks very much. I just wanted to add to that and probably as a previous councillor, probably have a little bit more appreciation for this this policy that's in here. And that additional layer of help, the whole CEO process and managing that and going through that whole process. When you are elected as a councillor, it's very seldom that anyone comes with that level of experience into a group. So we will be employing someone into that role. It will come at a cost, and I think it's a fantastic investment and something that I personally wish had have been in place for all my time on council. So it's one of the positive changes to the Local Government Act. It's one that I fully appreciate, and will definitely be listening to the advice given to us into the future. But it is it's not just a small little change, it's quite a significant change, and one that we should truly appreciate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Is there any other councillor who would like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor Whitfield if you'd like to close the debate.
No, thanks, Madam Mayor. Nothing further to say.
Okay, if not, I'll put the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 7.15, councillor expenses and meeting attendance Q1. I will take this report as presented, councillors. And the recommendation is that council note the contents of the councillor expenses and attendance report for Q1 of 2021-2022. Do I have a mover? If not, it will lapse for the want of a mover. Councillor Gamble. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Gamble, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a report to ensure public transparency about expenses and minimum standards with the attendance for councillors, and to track the quarterly expenses or reimbursement patterns against the annual budget. It's quite clear there in the agenda. I think we could see there that there is, sorry, I've just lost track of my notes there. Because of COVID and what's happened in recent times, we've been, our expenses are far down than what was anticipated with a normal year in terms of the annual budget allocated. Also, going on to the second year, personally, going on to the second year, I think I feel that to make a commitment to engage more in courses and professional development is needed, especially when you see that amount of money is there. And so personally, I'll make more of an effort to use it. But in this first year, just coming up to our first year, then I feel that it's been quite a challenge just to get up to speed in so many different matters. I've really sort of like been working more at the ground level before I can build up the levels, which to me is attending these extra courses and professional development enterprises, courses. But with the meetings also, then getting around the Shire as well is really important, and that's been somewhat hampered as well by COVID and the so many meetings going on Zoom and things. So, but things are looking up, and optimistically, with the people getting double vaccinated, etc., we're getting back to some normality, and I'm looking forward to getting around the Shire a lot more than what we've been able to in recent year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing else to add to those comments. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Okay. Item 8, notices of motion. There is none. Petitions, item 9, nil, and urgent business, nil. Item 10, we have a confidential report for decision. So there are confidential items for consideration tonight. I now ask that the streaming and recording is stopped so that the meeting can be moved into closed session. Can I have a councillor to move and second the resolution to move into a closed session? Could I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Rowe. Now put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. We'd just like to thank everyone for their attendance tonight, and thank you very much for tuning in on this live